All right, so this is my preseason quarterback rankings for the 2025 NFL season. Let's get started. Starting off with some honorable mentions. These are guys that I think have a really good shot of being a starter at some point this season, whether that be to bad quarterback play or just bad team play overall, so they decide to put their younger quarterbacks in the game. But you can look at these names here. You got Jackson Dart, Jameis Winston, Anthony Richardson, Kirk Cousins, Tyler Shugg, Dylan Gabriel, and Shadur Sanders. Now, starting off at number 32 is going to be Daniel Jones. He was previously at 44 because there was 50 quarterbacks at the end of the season rankings last year. He comes in at 32 as my worst starting quarterback of the year this year. He wasn't good last year. I don't think he's going to be very good this year, so he comes at 32. 31 is Spencer Rattler, who was officially named the starting quarterback for the Saints. He was very bad last year. I think he'll be certainly improved this year, but he's still going to be pretty bad for the Saints. Doesn't have a lot of good weapons around him either. Not going to help him too much, but I do think he does show some improvement from a year ago, but again, still pretty bad. Number 30 is going to be Joe Flacco. He drops 5 spots on this list. He was solid last year when he had to be a starter for the Colts, but I do think he has a worse receiving core with the Browns. He is probably going to be a little bit worse as a player just because he is older, right? That obviously isn't going to help him out here a whole lot. So I think he's going to come in at number 30. 29 is going to be Russell Wilson. Similar thing going for him. He wasn't bad last year at all, but I think he does have worse weapons on his team. Even though the Steelers didn't have great weapons, I think he's going to have worse weapons here in New York, outside of Malik Nabers, of course. And he's another year older. I don't expect him to have a very great season, although he's still going to be solid. 29 seems pretty bad, but I do think he's still going to be a solid starting quarterback. Number 28 is going to be Aaron Rodgers. Similar thing going there for him. With the Steelers, I think he has a worse receiving core than he did in New York. With Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams, he has DK Metcalf and then Rowan Wilson as his wide receiver too. Obviously a step down from what his weapons were looking like in New York with the Jets, and also he's another year older, right? I think he's just going to continue to regress a little bit. He's still going to be a solid starting quarterback, but certainly not a very good one in my personal opinion. 27 is going to be Bryce Young. He comes up a few spots. Remember, towards the end of last year, he actually looked really, really solid. He was number 32, but again, his first half of the season was very bad. Then he got benched for Andy Dalton and actually played pretty solid. So this year, I think he's going to take a big step forward, kind of play more so what he did towards the end of last year, which actually was like a good starting quarterback. I think he can be a good starting quarterback, even though he's all the way down at number 27. I think there's a lot of good quarterbacks this year, so I still think that is pretty good for him. Number 26 is going to be J.J. McCarthy, who, of course, did not play last season. I think he's going to be a solid starting quarterback for a rookie, even though he's technically second-year guy, but he's a rookie. He has no regular season NFL experience, so I think he's going to have a pretty solid year for a rookie, but nothing too special. Definitely a downgrade from what Sam Darnold was for the Jets a season ago. 25 is Trevor Lawrence. He was 29 last year. I think he'll be a little bit better. His weapons aren't necessarily much improved. He has, of course, Brian Thomas once again, and Travis Hunter I think is going to be good for him, wide receiver too, but he also had Christian Kirk and Gabe Davis last year and didn't really do anything with them. So as far as his weapons go, they're not much different. I think he is going to be playing a little bit better, but not too much better. Number 24 is Cam Ward, going to be a solid rookie quarterback. But he does not have a very good receiving group. He's definitely not set up to succeed in this Tennessee Titans offense, so I think he'll be fine. I think there'll be a lot of promises going forward for his career, but overall he's not going to have an outstanding rookie season by any means. 23 is going to be Geno Smith, definitely dropping off a little bit from where he was in Seattle. Definitely has a worse receiving core with Vegas than he did in Seattle, having both DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigma as well. Now he has Jacoby Myers and aging Amari Cooper, right? So definitely a worse receiving core. Still going to be solid, but definitely regressing, I think, from where he has been in the last few seasons. Number 22 is going to be Drake May. He was pretty good last year as a rookie. I think he's going to take a little bit of a step forward. He has Stephon Diggs on his team, right? So that alone should help him improve quite a bit. 22 is a good spot for him, but he's definitely not going to be a top half starting quarterback, like a top 16 guy, but 22 is still a really solid spot for a second-year guy in Drake May. Number 21 is going to be Michael Penix. He's going to jump up quite a bit. He only played 3 games last year, so didn't have a really good sample size, but he did look solid in those games. So I think he's going to come in this year, certainly be improved where he was last year, and getting a full season out of him. I think we're going to see a lot of growth, and he's going to be a really solid second-year guy with very, very minimal experience up to this point. Number 20 is going to be Sam Darnold. Definitely takes a pretty significant step back from where he was last year in Minnesota. He had an amazing year, right? Definitely a career year by a long shot. I think he's going to take a significant step back, but still be a good starting quarterback, right? Even a few years ago, he was, a backup, a bust, right? But now he's actually reviving his career. Even though he's not going to be as good as he was a season ago, he can still be a good quarterback and fall in here at number 20 for Seattle. Number 19 is going to be Justin Fields. He was 21 last year. I think he'll take a small step forward. He's improved his efficiency numbers pretty much every year in the career, right? Last year, he had his career high in completion percentage, in interception percentage, a career low, which is obviously good there. And I believe he had a career high quarterback rating as well, or at least a passer rating, right? So he's improved in many areas. I think getting an entire year here in New York, he has some solid weapons. He has, of course, Garrett Wilson. Breece Hall is a good running back that can be a great target out of the backfield as well. As far as the passing game goes, I think he's going to be a pretty solid quarterback here for New York. Number 18 is Matthew Stafford. He's definitely on the downtick of his career. He was still a very good quarterback a season ago. I think he's going to take a pretty significant step back this year, and this honestly might be one of his last years as a starting quarterback. I'd say he has 2 years max, but I would not be surprised if this was his last year, just because the kind of way things have been going with Stetson Bennett. He looks like he's improving. Not that I'm saying Stetson Bennett is going to really be his replacement, but I do think they're going to be okay with having Stetson Bennett replace Matthew Stafford after this season if they needed to, right? So I think he's going to come in, still be solid, but definitely a significant step back from last year. Number 17 is going to be Baker Mayfield. He was number 6 a year ago, which, just in my brain, saying that Baker Mayfield's a top 6 quarterback doesn't sound right. Saying he's a top 10 quarterback, it doesn't sound right, but he's continued to show it the last few years with his stats. I just, for some reason, I just cannot bring myself to actually ranking him as a top 10 in preseason, right? So I'm going to have him at number 17. He's probably going to outperform those rankings, but that's kind of just where I have him. Number 16 is going to be Bo Nix. He was 14 last year. I'm going to drop him a couple spots, but that's not because I think it's going to be any worse than he was a year ago. I honestly think we have a lot of good quarterbacks this year. I think there's going to be a decent amount of quarterbacks that do take a step up from where they were a season ago. Bo Nix, I think, is going to basically flatline. He had a really good rookie year, so he's going to be having a similar year to what he just had, which isn't bad by any means. Even if he doesn't show a single ounce of progression, right? Broncos fans are still going to be happy with him towards his, looking towards his future goals for this team. But number 16, a solid spot for Bo Nix. Number 15 is going to be Brock Purdy. He takes a small step down. He has a worse receiving core. I mean, his receivers were kind of injured all last year anyways, but just on paper, going into the season, still has a worse receiving core than he did a season ago with both Debo and Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk is going to be injured this year, or at least to start, right? That's obviously not going to help him. He's still going to be good, but just a small bit worse than he was a season ago. And part of that, again, is because of his worst receiving room, at least on paper. Number 14 is going to be Kyler Murray. I think he's going to take a small step forward, right? Having Marvin Harrison come into his second year, I think he's going to be an elite wide receiver this year. That's going to help Kyler Murray out quite a bit himself. And I think he's going to be more dynamic as a rusher this year than he was a season ago because he's just getting more and more healed from his ACL injury that he had a few seasons ago. Number 13 is going to be Dak Prescott. He came in at 24 at the end of last year. He wasn't very good. He was also injured for a good amount of the season, right? And he did not have a good year last year. But 2 seasons ago, he was easily a top 10 quarterback, right? So I do think he's going to take a big step forward, kind of be what he was, more like what he was a couple of years ago rather than last year. He's still a good quarterback. I think he's going to play like a really good quarterback. And having George Pickens on the team as well as CeeDee Lamb is going to help him out quite a bit to looking like a really good quarterback in this league. Number 12 is going to be Caleb Williams. He was at number 23. I think he takes a massive step forward in his sophomore season. He has a lot of good offensive weapons now. The offensive line is a lot better. Right? Even though his receiving core on paper was really good last year, he's replaced an aging Keenan Allen with Luther Burden. Right? Luther Burden should be really good for this team. He also has Colston Love's on that tight end, who should be really good for this team. And they already have Cole Kmet at tight end, right? So he has a lot of really good offensive weapons, and having an improved offensive line should definitely help him play a lot better than he did last season. Number 11 is going to be Jordan Love. He was number 19 last year, but again, 2 years ago, he was closer to a top 10 quarterback than he was last year. So I do think this year he kind of gets back on that track to be a little bit more closer to a top 10 level quarterback than he is a number 20 or so, right? He's going to be really good. Receiving core is about the same, but I do think there's going to be some improvements. Also getting Matthew Golden in there, definitely going to help him out quite a bit. Number 10 is going to be Tua Tagovailoa. He was number 9. I have him dropping just one spot. It's not a whole lot to talk about here for Tua. I think he's definitely a top 10 quarterback. I just hope he can be healthy all year long because he has a great receiving core, right? And he's a great quarterback when he can stay healthy for the entire season. They're really fun to watch. Like this Dolphins team is really fun to watch with a healthy Tua for an entire season. And we have not seen that in a few years, so I would love to see that this year. Number 9 is going to be Jared Goff. I have him being slightly better than Tua Tagovailoa. They kind of just swap places in this ranking. Jared Goff was number 10 last year. He has a really good receiving core, once again, just like he did last year. I just think he's going to play very, very marginally better, but basically be around the same type of guy he was just last year. Number 8 is going to be C.J. Stroud. He was number 18 last year, but 2 years ago as a rookie, he was a top 10 quarterback, right? So he had a pretty significant sophomore slump. He also had a lot of wide receiver injuries to worry about and Stephon Diggs chemistry issues and stuff. But coming into this year, he's not going to have Tank Dell, but he still has Nico Collins, who's amazing. He has Christian Kirk, who's going to be good. He has Jaden Higgins, rookie receiver out of, I think, Iowa State. I think he's going to have a lot of good weapons and play a lot better than he did last season. Number 7 is going to be Jaden Daniels. He was the top 7 quarterback as a rookie, which is pretty crazy, and I don't think he's going to really take much step forward this year. But you know, he could even have a better season than he did last year. But the top 6 quarterbacks on my list, I think, are pretty definitively top 6. They're all unanimously elite quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels is kind of on the cusp of being an elite quarterback, and he's only going into his second year. Right? This is still a very, very high ranking for a second-year quarterback. Number 6 is going to be Jalen Hurts, dropping just one spot from where he was a season ago. He had amazing stats. I do think the tush-push touchdowns are going to be diminished a little bit this year. Probably not a whole lot because teams still can't really stop it. But just getting more and more years into the tush-push style, I think they're going to stop it a little bit more than they did previously. That will hurt his numbers. And also, I kind of boosted him a little bit because he did win the Super Bowl last year, so I'm going to drop him down here to number 6 going into this season. And number 5 is going to be Justin Herbert. He was number 8 at the end of the last season, and part of that was because he threw 4 interceptions in a playoff game after throwing 3 in the entire regular season, right? So his regular season, he was probably a top 5 quarterback last year, right? But his really bad playoff performance made me drop him down to number 8. But this year, again, looking at the regular season ahead of him, he has a better receiving core, in my opinion, right? He should be better than he was last year, and he was already a very, very good quarterback last year. Number 4 is going to be Lamar Jackson. This is definitely questionable. Top 4, I think, are the top 4. You can put them in any order you want, and I'm not really mad at you at all. You're going to see that I have a lot of changes from my top 4 at the end of last season, even though it is the same 4 guys. But I have Lamar coming in at number 4. And again, it's not really because I think he's going to play worse than last year. He might play marginally worse, but I just think the guys ahead of him are going to be playing better than him this season. Not because of Lamar Jackson being bad, just because those guys are that good, right? Number 3 is going to be Josh Allen. I had him at number last year. He did win the MVP. I thought he was worse than Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. So coming into this year, I think he's going to be basically the same type of guy. I don't think he's going to win MVP, but I do think he's still going to have an amazing, amazing year because, again, Josh Allen is an elite quarterback. Number 2, I'm going to have Joe Burrow. He was the number 1 quarterback last year. I mean, he led the league in yards and touchdowns, right, with having a great completion percentage. Like, I think there's no real argument for him not being number 1 last season. But this year, I think he's going to have a small step down. I think his offensive line is worse than last year, even though their offensive line wasn't very good last year either. But there's been a lot of struggles with their offensive line in preseason. I think they'll take a very, very small step down and be the number 2 quarterback this season. And number 1, of course, was going to be Patrick Mahomes, the only guy left. I had him at number 4 last year, but this year he should have an improved receiving core. The first 6 games they will be without Rashee Rice, but even still, having a healthy Hollywood Brown, having a year 2 Xavier Worthy, right? That's already a better receiving core than they had last year because, again, they were without Rashee Rice for a large part of last year as well, right? So, but just getting a improved Xavier Worthy, a healthier Hollywood Brown, a Rashee Rice for at least 11 games or so. That's the idea here, right? Should still help him out quite a bit. And they have a pretty deep receiving core where last year, after their third or fourth receiver, it wasn't very good. I think they're going to be better this year offensively, and Patrick Mahomes himself is going to be certainly better as well. Now here is going to be a simple view for you guys. I'm not going to be talking about everyone on here. This is just a very easy way to look at my rankings 1 through 32. If you really want to, just take a picture of it or whatever, just review what I've been talking about. But that's going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching. I'll have another video tomorrow, I believe it's my running back rankings, and we're going to have wide receiver, tight end, and other stuff coming out over about the next 7 days. But thank you for watching this video, and goodbye.